Sarah Martinez woke up at 4:30 every morning in their small apartment in Phoenix, Arizona. The desert sun hadn't yet risen, but she was already preparing breakfast for her husband, Marcus, and getting ready to open her flower shop downtown. From the outside, their life looked picture perfect. Marcus would stop by the shop during lunch, flashing his charming smile at customers who thought he was the most supportive husband. But behind closed doors, the truth was different. Marcus hadn't worked a real job in nearly 2 years. "The market's terrible," he'd say, scrolling through his phone. "I'm waiting for something that matches my skills." Sarah never complained. She loved her flower shop, loved arranging bouquets for weddings and celebrations, loved making people smile. One Tuesday morning, Sarah stood at the shop counter, trimming roses for an anniversary arrangement. Marcus walked in late, coffee in hand. "Morning, babe," Sarah said brightly. "Can you help me with the delivery van later? I have 3 big orders." Marcus barely looked up from his phone. "I've got plans with Tony. Business meeting. Don't wait up." Sarah's smile faded slightly, but she nodded. This had become their routine, her working, him avoiding, both pretending everything was fine. That afternoon, as Sarah drove to deliver flowers across town, she sang along to the radio, thinking about the rose garden she wanted to plant. She never saw the delivery truck run the red light. The impact was instant. Glass shattered, metal crunched, then everything went black. Sarah woke to harsh fluorescent lights and the steady beep of hospital machines. Her body felt strange, disconnected. She tried to move her legs, but nothing happened. Panic seized her chest. A nurse appeared at her bedside. "Sarah, you're awake. You're in Phoenix General Hospital. You were in a serious accident." "My legs," Sarah whispered, her throat dry. "I can't feel them." The nurse's expression softened with sympathy. "The doctor will explain everything. Let me get your husband." Minutes felt like hours before Marcus entered. He looked pale, uncomfortable, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. "They said you can't walk," he said, the words hanging heavy in the air. Sarah's world tilted. "What do you mean?" "Spinal injury. They don't know if it's permanent." Marcus wouldn't meet her eyes. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. "We'll figure this out. Together, right?" Marcus finally looked at her, and what she saw in his eyes made her blood run cold. Not love, not determination, fear, and something worse, resentment. "Yeah," he said flatly. "Together." But his hand, when he finally took hers, felt lifeless and cold. The following weeks blurred together in a haze of physical therapy, insurance battles, and mounting medical bills. The flower shop had to close. Sarah couldn't manage it from a wheelchair, and Marcus certainly didn't offer to help. Their savings evaporated quickly. Marcus grew more distant each day, sleeping on the couch, staying out later and later. When Sarah tried to talk to him, he'd snap about how hard this was for him too. One night, Sarah lay awake, listening to Marcus come home at 2 a.m., reeking of perfume that wasn't hers. She wanted to confront him, but part of her was too afraid of what she'd discover. Her best friend, Lisa, visited the next morning with groceries. "How are you holding up?" Lisa asked, putting away the food. "I'm trying," Sarah said quietly. "Marcus is struggling." Lisa's jaw tightened. "He should be supporting you, not the other way around." Before Sarah could respond, Marcus walked in. His eyes lingered on Lisa a moment too long, and Sarah felt something twist in her gut. "Didn't know you were here," Marcus said to Lisa. "Just helping out," Lisa replied coolly. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Sarah watched the exchange, a terrible suspicion beginning to form in her mind. After Lisa left, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that her world was about to crumble even further. If you're enjoying Sarah's story of resilience and transformation, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. Drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from, and share this video with someone who needs to hear a story about strength and survival. Your support helps us create more inspiring content. Let's continue this journey together. The wheelchair had become Sarah's new reality. Every morning, she'd wake up hoping it was all a nightmare, only to remember she couldn't walk. The physical pain was manageable with medication, but the emotional pain of watching her marriage dissolve was unbearable. Marcus barely spoke to her anymore. He'd leave early, return late, and spend most of his time on his phone, texting and laughing at messages he'd quickly hide when Sarah rolled into the room. One evening, Sarah decided to try cooking dinner, something she'd always loved doing for them. She struggled in the kitchen, reaching for pots from her wheelchair, determined to feel useful again. When Marcus came home, he barely glanced at the table she'd set. "I'm not hungry," he muttered, heading straight for the bedroom. Sarah sat alone at the table, staring at the untouched meal, feeling her heart break a little more. A week later, Lisa came by again. This time, she seemed nervous, fidgeting with her purse. "Sarah, I need to tell you something," Lisa began, then stopped. "Actually, never mind." "What is it?" Sarah pressed. "It's nothing. Just you seem tired. Are you sleeping?" Sarah wanted to push further, but exhaustion overwhelmed her. "Not much," she admitted. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. Around midnight, she heard voices in the hallway outside their apartment. She wheeled herself quietly to the door and pressed her ear against it. Lisa's voice, barely a whisper. "This is wrong. She's your wife." Marcus, frustrated. "You don't understand what it's like. She's not the same person. I can't do this anymore." "Lisa, so what? You're just going to leave her?" "Marcus, I don't know. I just know I can't keep pretending." Sarah's hands trembled on the wheels of her chair. She backed away from the door, her breath coming in short gasps. Her husband and her best friend. Together. The next morning, Sarah's eyes were red and swollen. When Marcus emerged from the bedroom, she confronted him directly. "Are you having an affair?" Marcus froze, his expression shifting from surprise to defensiveness. "What? No. Why would you ask that?" "Because you're never here. Because you look at me like I discussed you. Because I heard you last night. With Lisa." Marcus's face hardened. "You're paranoid. The accident messed with your head." "Don't gaslight me," Sarah said, her voice stronger than she felt. "I know what I heard." Marcus grabbed his jacket. "I can't deal with this right now. You need to focus on getting better instead of inventing problems." "Please," Sarah's voice cracked. "Just tell me the truth. If you want to leave, just say it." Marcus stopped at the door, his back to her. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold and final. "Maybe I do. Maybe this isn't the life I signed up for." He walked out, leaving Sarah alone in the apartment, the sound of the slamming door echoing in the silence. Sarah cried until she had no tears left. Then she called her mother in California. "Mom, I think Marcus is leaving me." Her mother's voice was firm but loving. "Then let him go, Mija. You're stronger than you know. You'll survive this." "I have nothing left," Sarah sobbed. "No business, no savings, no husband. You have yourself, and that's enough." After hanging up, Sarah sat by the window, watching the Phoenix sunset paint the sky orange and pink. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a life without Marcus. It was terrifying, but maybe, just maybe it was also freeing. The next day, a certified letter arrived. Sarah opened it with shaking hands. It was from a law firm in Los Angeles. "Dear Ms. Martinez, we regret to inform you of the passing of your uncle, Roberto Martinez. As per his last will and testament, you have been named as a beneficiary. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience." Sarah stared at the letter. Uncle Roberto. She barely remembered him, a quiet man who'd moved to California decades ago. They'd lost touch when she was just a child. She tossed the letter on the coffee table. More complications were the last thing she needed. But that night, alone in her apartment, she picked up the letter again. A small voice in her head whispered, "What if?" The next morning, the landlord knocked on her door. "Sarah, we need to talk about rent. You're 3 weeks late." "I know, Mr. Chun. I'm so sorry. I'm working on it." He sighed, clearly uncomfortable. "I can give you one more week. After that, I'll have to start eviction proceedings." After he left, Sarah looked at the lawyer's letter again. She had nothing to lose by calling. Maybe there was a small inheritance, enough to buy some time. She dialed the number, her heart pounding. "Martinez and Associates, how may I help you?" "This is Sarah Martinez. I received a letter about my Uncle Roberto's will." The woman's tone brightened immediately. "Yes, Ms. Martinez. We've been trying to reach you. Can you come to our Los Angeles office this week? I'm in a wheelchair now. Traveling is difficult. We can arrange everything. Transportation, accommodations. This is quite important. Sarah agreed, barely believing what she was doing. As she hung up, she felt something she hadn't felt in months, a tiny spark of hope. The law firm sent a car service to pick up Sarah from Phoenix and drive her to Los Angeles. The driver was professional and kind, making sure she was comfortable for the long journey. Sarah watched the desert landscape give way to California hills, her mind racing with possibilities and fears. What could Uncle Roberto have left her? A few $1,000s? Maybe some old furniture? She tried not to get her hopes up. The law firm's office was in a sleek downtown building. An assistant wheeled her into a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Minutes later, an older gentleman in an expensive suit entered. "Ms. Martinez, I'm James Turner. Thank you for making the trip." He sat across from her, opening a thick leather portfolio. "First, let me express my condolences. Your uncle spoke of you fondly." Sarah was surprised. "I barely knew him. We hadn't spoken in over 20 years. Mr. Turner nodded. "He kept track of you from afar. He knew about your flower shop, your marriage. He was very proud of you." Sarah felt a lump in her throat. "I had no idea. Your uncle was a private man, but very successful. He made his fortune in real estate investments." Mr. Turner paused. "Ms. Martinez, he's named you as his sole beneficiary." Sarah's hands gripped her wheelchair's armrests. "What does that mean exactly?" Mr. Turner looked her straight in the eye. "Your uncle's estate is valued at approximately $100 million. The room seemed to tilt. Sarah couldn't breathe. That's impossible. I assure you, it's very real. However, there are conditions." Mr. Turner slid a document across the table. "Your uncle wanted to protect you. You must keep this inheritance completely private for 6 months. Tell no one, not family, not friends, not your husband." Sarah's mind reeled. $100 million. She could barely process it. "Why the secrecy?" she managed to ask. "Your uncle witnessed too many families torn apart by sudden wealth. He wanted you to have time to adjust, to see who truly cares about you before money complicates everything. After 6 months, the full inheritance is yours to use as you wish." Mr. Turner continued. "In the meantime, we'll provide a modest monthly allowance for your expenses, enough to live comfortably but not extravagantly. Can you maintain this secret?" Sarah thought of Marcus, of Lisa, of everyone who'd abandoned her when she needed them most. "Yes," she said firmly. "I can." "Excellent. We'll handle all the paperwork. If you have any questions, call me directly." He handed her a private card. The drive back to Phoenix felt surreal. Sarah kept touching her purse, where Mr. Turner's card sat like a secret talisman. $100 million. The number seemed fictional, impossible. But what struck her most wasn't the money. It was Uncle Roberto's wisdom. He knew that revealing wealth immediately would attract the wrong people. The 6-month secrecy clause was a test, a way to see who loved her for herself. When Sarah arrived home, Marcus was there, packing a duffel bag. "Where are you going?" Sarah asked, though she already knew. "I can't do this anymore, Sarah. This isn't the life I wanted." His voice was matter-of-fact, almost rehearsed. "So, are you just leaving?" No discussion. No trying to work it out. Marcus zipped his bag. "There's nothing to work out. You need care I can't provide. It's better this way." "Is it Lisa?" Sarah asked quietly. Marcus had the decency to look uncomfortable. "That's none of your business anymore. When did we become strangers?" Sarah's voice broke. "We became strangers the day of your accident. You're not the woman I married." Those words hit like a physical blow. Sarah watched him walk toward the door, carrying his bag and their entire history together. "Don't come back," Sarah said, surprising herself with the steadiness in her voice. "Don't call, don't text. We're done." Marcus paused at the door. "How are you going to survive? You can't even walk." Sarah met his eyes. "I'll figure it out. I always do." After he left, Sarah sat in the silence of her empty apartment. She should feel devastated. Instead, she felt lighter. The pretending was over. She picked up her phone and saw a missed call from Lisa. Sarah blocked the number without listening to the voicemail. That night, Sarah made a decision. She wouldn't tell anyone about the inheritance. Not yet. She would use this time to rebuild herself, to discover who she was beyond being Marcus's wife or the owner of a flower shop. The law firm transferred the first month's allowance. It was enough to pay rent, buy groceries, and cover her medical expenses with some leftover. Sarah paid Mr. Chin 6 months of rent in advance. He was shocked but grateful. Got some family help, Sarah explained simply. She also quietly started paying it forward. She noticed which neighbors were struggling. The single mom upstairs, the elderly couple next door. Anonymous gift cards started appearing in their mailboxes. For the first time in months, Sarah felt purpose returning. Not for what she had, but from what she could give. The first week after Marcus left was the hardest. Sarah would wake up expecting to hear him in the kitchen, only to remember she was alone. But alone started to feel different from lonely. Alone meant freedom. Alone meant she could rediscover herself. With a modest allowance from the inheritance, Sarah didn't have to worry about immediate survival. She could breathe, think, plan, and most importantly, she could start dreaming again. One morning, she woke up early and wheeled herself to the kitchen. She pulled out flour, sugar, and spices, ingredients she'd been too depressed to use. She started baking, something she hadn't done since before the accident. The smell of cinnamon rolls filled the apartment. For the first time in months, Sarah smiled genuinely. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chun, the landlord's wife, knocked on the door later that morning. "Something smells wonderful." Sarah offered her a roll. Mrs. Chun took one bite and her eyes widened. "Sarah, these are incredible. You should sell these." The comment planted a seed. Sarah had always loved baking. It was why she'd sometimes make special treats for her flower shop customers. What if she could start over, doing something she actually loved? That afternoon, Sarah's phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Sarah? It's Daniel Chun. From high school." Sarah's heart skipped. Daniel had been her friend before she married Marcus, a kind, genuine person she'd lost touch with over the years. "Daniel, wow. How did you get my number?" "Ran into your mom at the grocery store in California. She mentioned you were going through a rough time. I wanted to reach out, see if you needed anything." They talked for an hour. Daniel had moved back to Phoenix after years in Seattle, working as a web designer. He was single, focused on his career, and had always remembered Sarah as the one who got away to marry that jerk Marcus. "He's gone," Sarah said simply. "Left me after the accident." Daniel was quiet for a moment. "His loss. Can I take you to lunch this week? As friends. I promise." Sarah hesitated, then agreed. She needed friends, real ones. When Daniel picked her up in his accessible van, he'd rented it specifically for her. Sarah felt seen in a way she hadn't in years. He treated her wheelchair as an afterthought, focusing instead on her as a person. Over lunch, they laughed about high school memories and shared what their lives had become. "I heard you had a flower shop," Daniel said. "That's amazing." "Had. Past tense. Couldn't manage it after." Sarah gestured to her wheelchair. "What if you could manage it? With the right setup, the right help?" Sarah shook her head. "I don't have the money to start over. Medical bills wiped me out." Daniel leaned forward. "What if I told you I specialize in helping small businesses get online? We could start small, you baking from home, selling online, building from there. I'd help with the website, social media, all of it. No charge." Sarah's eyes welled up. "Why would you do that?" "Because you're talented. Because you deserve a second chance. And because I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself yet." That night, Sarah lay in bed thinking about Daniel's offer. She had secret money that could fund a real business, but she couldn't use it. Not yet. But she could start small, just as Daniel suggested, and let people think it was all her own hard work. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and Daniel worked together. She baked from her kitchen, cookies, brownies, cinnamon rolls, custom cakes. He built her a beautiful website and handled social media. Phoenix Flower and Flower, they called it. A nod to her past and her future. Orders trickled in at first. Then more. Then more. Sarah hired a part-time delivery driver with her small allowance. Word spread about the incredible baked goods made by that inspiring woman in the wheelchair. Marcus, meanwhile, had moved in with Lisa. But their relationship was rocky from the start. Built on betrayal and guilt, it crumbled under the weight of real life. Marcus couldn't find steady work. Lisa resented supporting him. They fought constantly. One evening, Marcus drove past Sarah's apartment complex and saw a delivery van with Phoenix Flower and Flower printed on the side. He parked and watched as the driver loaded boxes of orders. How is Sarah affording this? Where's her money coming from? He texted her, "Saw your business is doing well. Good for you." Sarah didn't respond. He tried again. "Maybe we could talk sometime. I made mistakes." Sarah blocked his number. Lisa tried reaching out too, with a long message about regret and forgiveness. Sarah deleted it without reading past the first line. Daniel noticed a change in Sarah. "You seem lighter," he observed one afternoon while helping her pack orders. "I feel free," Sarah admitted. "For the first time in years, I'm living for me, not trying to please Marcus or be someone I'm not. You're amazing, you know that," Daniel said softly. Sarah met his eyes. There was something there, something warm and real. But she wasn't ready. Not yet. "Thank you for believing in me," she said instead. As the weeks passed, Sarah's business grew. She reinvested every penny, slowly expanding. She bought better equipment, hired another part-time worker, developed new recipes. People started sharing her story online. Not the inheritance part, which remained secret, but her resilience. Local news picked it up. Local woman builds thriving business after life-changing accident. The interview aired on a Tuesday evening. Marcus watched it from Lisa's couch, his jaw tight with jealousy and regret. "She looks happy," Lisa said quietly, her voice filled with envy and shame. Marcus said nothing, but inside, he was seething. How had Sarah moved on so quickly? Where was her money coming from? 3 months had passed since the inheritance revelation, and Sarah's double life was becoming easier to manage. To the outside world, she was a hard-working entrepreneur building a successful home bakery through determination and talent. Only she and Mr. Turner knew the truth, that she was secretly worth $100 million. The allowance Mr. Turner provided was carefully calculated. It covered her living expenses and allowed modest business investments that seemed reasonable for a growing startup. Anything more would raise suspicions. Sarah had become an expert at living below her means while planning for her future. She kept notebooks filled with ideas, a proper bakery with accessible facilities, a foundation to help disabled entrepreneurs, job training programs. But for now, these remained dreams written in private. Phoenix Flower and Flower had become a local success story. Sarah employed 4 people now, all individuals who'd faced their own hardships. There was Carmen, a single mother escaping an abusive relationship. Miguel, a veteran with PTSD, finding purpose in honest work. And the Chin's teenage daughter, Lisa, different Lisa, earning money for college. Daniel remained her closest friend and unofficial business partner. He refused payment, claiming he was investing in a future successful business owner who would remember him when she made it big. If only he knew, Sarah thought sometimes. One Saturday afternoon, Sarah was frosting a wedding cake when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. "Sarah Martinez?" A woman's voice, vaguely familiar. "Yes. This is Jessica Ramirez. I'm a reporter with Phoenix Magazine. We're doing a feature on inspiring local entrepreneurs. Your story caught our attention." Sarah's stomach tightened. Publicity meant scrutiny. "I'm not sure I'm the right fit. We've heard you're doing amazing work while overcoming significant challenges. Our readers would love to hear about your journey. Plus, think of the exposure for your business." Sarah couldn't refuse without seeming suspicious. "Okay, what would this involve?" "Just an interview and some photos at your workspace. We'd focus on your resilience and business acumen." They scheduled it for the following week. After hanging up, Sarah immediately called Mr. Turner. "Is this a problem?" she asked. "What if they dig into my finances?" Mr. Turner was calm. "The allowance we provide comes through a trust that appears to be a small family loan. Your business records show modest growth funded by revenue in this loan. Everything is legitimate and traceable. Just stick to the truth. You received some family help after your uncle passed." Sarah breathed easier, but the interview still made her nervous. When Jessica arrived with a photographer, Sarah was ready. She'd practiced her story until it felt natural. Jessica was in her 30s, sharp-eyed, but friendly. "Tell me about the accident," she began gently. Sarah shared the story, The crash, the paralysis, the months of recovery. Then the harder part, my husband left me shortly after. Said he couldn't handle it. Jessica's expression softened with sympathy. That must have been devastating. It was. But it also freed me to discover who I really was without him. How did you fund the business with medical debt? This was the crucial question. Sarah kept her voice steady. I received a small inheritance from an uncle who passed away. It wasn't much, but it covered my immediate needs and gave me seed money for the business. The rest has been revenue and a lot of hard work. Jessica scribbled notes. In the name, Phoenix Flower and Flower, references both your flower shop past and your baking present. Exactly. And Phoenix for the city, but also for rising from the ashes. The interview went well. The photographer captured Sarah kneading dough, decorating cakes, laughing with her employees. The resulting article would paint her as an inspiration, which she was, even if the full financial picture remained hidden. But someone was paying very close attention to Sarah's growing success. Marcus. He'd been monitoring her social media, driving past her apartment, asking mutual acquaintances about her. His relationship with Lisa had imploded spectacularly. She'd kicked him out after discovering he'd been texting other women. Now Marcus was alone, broke, and bitter. When the magazine article was published, Marcus read it 3 times, analyzing every detail. Small inheritance from an uncle. How small? And why was Sarah's business growing so quickly if the inheritance was modest? He started digging. He called old mutual friends, asking casually about Sarah's situation. He drove by her apartment more frequently, noting the delivery van, the equipment being carried in, the obvious signs of prosperity. One evening, he waited outside her building until he saw her being helped into a van by a man. That Daniel guy from high school. Marcus's jaw clenched. Sarah had clearly moved on, and that infuriated him more than anything. Meanwhile, Lisa, his ex-friend and former affair partner, was having her own crisis. She'd lost her job, was behind on rent, and drowning in credit card debt. She read the magazine article about Sarah and felt a toxic mixture of shame and resentment. How had Sarah landed on her feet while Lisa's life fell apart? It wasn't fair. Lisa called Marcus for the first time in weeks. Did you see the article? Yeah, Marcus said bitterly. She's doing great apparently. Something doesn't add up, Lisa said. A small inheritance doesn't explain all this. The equipment, the employees, the van. She's hiding something. You think so too? Marcus felt validated. We should find out what really happened. Maybe she's getting disability payments she didn't disclose. Maybe that small inheritance was actually huge. They began plotting together, united by jealousy and desperation. If Sarah had hidden money, they reasoned, Marcus deserved part of it as her ex-husband. And Lisa, well, Lisa felt Sarah owed her something for reasons she couldn't quite articulate, even to herself. Sarah, unaware of their scheming, continued building her life. She attended physical therapy regularly and regained some strength in her legs. Doctors said she might walk with assistance someday, though the wheelchair would likely always be necessary for longer distances. Daniel asked her to dinner, not as friends, but as something more. Sarah said yes. Over camelot pasta, Daniel took her hand. I need to tell you something. I've had feelings for you since high school. I never said anything because you were with Marcus, and then I moved away. But now, Sarah, you're the strongest, most inspiring person I know. I like to see where this goes. If you're ready. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, happy ones this time. I like that too. They took it slow, but Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in years. Genuine connection. Daniel didn't see her wheelchair. He saw her. 3 months remained until her full inheritance would be revealed. Sarah just had to keep the secret a little longer. The magazine article brought unexpected attention. Phoenix Flower and Flower's orders doubled, then tripled. Sarah had to hire 2 more employees and rent a small commercial kitchen space. To anyone watching, it looked like organic business growth. Only Sarah knew the inheritance allowance was carefully supplementing the business in ways that seemed natural. Daniel helped her move into the new space, a sunny kitchen in a renovated warehouse with full accessibility features. As they unpacked equipment, he said, "You know what's amazing? You did this. Even with everything against you, you built something real. Sarah felt a pang of guilt. She hadn't done it entirely alone. The inheritance had provided a safety net, but she had worked hard, created something meaningful. The money just made it possible. I had help, she said honestly. From you, from good timing, from a lot of things lining up. Daniel kissed her forehead. You're too humble. Take credit for once. Their relationship had deepened over recent weeks. Daniel was patient, understanding, nothing like Marcus. He celebrated Sarah's victories and supported her through the hard days when pain flared or old wounds resurfaced. But trouble was brewing. Marcus and Lisa had been conducting their own investigation into Sarah's finances, calling the magazine, checking public records, even contacting Sarah's landlord with false concerns about her sudden wealth. One Tuesday afternoon, they showed up at Sarah's new commercial kitchen unannounced. Sarah was in the middle of decorating a birthday cake when the door chimed. She looked up and froze. Marcus and Lisa stood in the entrance, looking worn and desperate. We need to talk, Marcus said, his voice carrying an edge. Sarah wiped her hands on her apron. You're not welcome here. Please leave. We're not leaving until you tell us the truth, Lisa said, stepping forward. Where's all this money coming from? Miguel, the veteran Sarah had hired, moved protectively closer. Ma'am, should I call someone? Not yet, Sarah said quietly, though her heart raced. She wheeled toward Marcus and Lisa. You have exactly 2 minutes. Then Miguel calls the police. Marcus tried a softer approach. Sarah, I know I messed up, but we were married. If you got money from your uncle, I might be entitled to part of it. Legally. Sarah almost laughed. We've been separated for 4 months. And my uncle passed away after you left. You have no claim to anything. How much did you get? Lisa demanded. Because that magazine article said small inheritance, but this, she gestured around the kitchen, doesn't look small. My finances are none of your business, Sarah said firmly. Either of you. You both made your choices. Now live with them. Marcus's fake friendliness evaporated. You're hiding something. I know you are. And when I prove it, I'm getting what I deserve. You already got what you deserved. Nothing, Sarah shot back. You abandoned me when I needed you most. You cheated with my best friend. You have no moral or legal right to anything in my life. Lisa's eyes filled with tears. Whether genuine or manipulative, Sarah couldn't tell. I'm sorry for what happened. But I'm struggling, Sarah. I lost everything. Can't you help me, for old times' sake? Old times. Sarah's voice was ice. You mean when you were sleeping with my husband while I was in a wheelchair? Those old times. The kitchen had gone completely silent. Sarah's employees pretended to work, but were clearly listening. Miguel stepped forward. Time's up. Leave now, or I'm calling 911. Marcus pointed at Sarah. This isn't over. I'm going to find out what you're hiding, and when I do. When you do what? Daniel's voice came from the doorway. He'd arrived for lunch and immediately assessed the situation. Threaten a disabled woman in her place of business? That's a crime, Marcus. Marcus deflated slightly at the sight of Daniel. This is between me and Sarah. No, it's not. There is no you and Sarah anymore. You left. She moved on. Now you need to do the same. Daniel moved to stand beside Sarah's wheelchair, his presence protective but not aggressive. Lisa grabbed Marcus's arm. Let's go. This was a mistake. As they left, Marcus turned back. You'll regret this, Sarah. When the truth comes out, everyone will know what kind of person you really are. The door closed behind them. Sarah released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Her hands trembled. Daniel knelt beside her wheelchair. You okay? No, Sarah admitted. But I will be. Carmen, the single mother employee, approached tentatively. Sarah, I don't know what's going on, but whatever it is, we've got your back. You gave us chances when nobody else would. Your family. The other employees nodded in agreement. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, the good kind. That evening, Sarah called Mr. Turner and explained what happened. Should I be worried? She asked. Can I actually find out about the inheritance? Mr. Turner was reassuring. The trust is legally protected. Even if they hire a lawyer, which seems unlikely given their financial situation, they'd find nothing inappropriate. However, I recommend you document any harassment. If they continue, we can pursue a restraining order. I just want them to leave me alone. Sarah said wearily. 2 more months, Mr. Turner reminded her. Then the full inheritance becomes accessible, and you can stop hiding. In the meantime, stay the course. After hanging up, Sarah sat in her quiet apartment. Daniel had offered to stay, but she needed time alone to think. Marcus's words echoed in her mind. When the truth comes out, everyone will know what kind of person you really are. What kind of person was she? Someone who'd survived abandonment and betrayal. Someone who'd built a business and helped others. Someone who'd kept a secret to protect herself. She wasn't ashamed. Not anymore. The next morning, Sarah found a handwritten note slipped under her apartment door. I know you're lying about something. People like you always get exposed. Enjoy it while it lasts. M. Sarah photographed the note and sent it to Mr. Turner. This was harassment, and she wouldn't tolerate it. Daniel arrived to take her to physical therapy. When she showed him the note, his jaw tightened. This has to stop. Let me talk to him. No, Sarah said firmly. That's what he wants, attention drama. We ignore him. He'll get bored eventually. But Marcus didn't get bored. He started posting vague things on social media about people who hide their true colors and sudden wealth that doesn't add up. A few mutual acquaintances reached out to Sarah, confused by his posts. Sarah responded simply, Marcus is struggling with our separation. I wish him well, but have no further comment. She refused to be drawn into his drama. Meanwhile, her business continued thriving. She was featured in 2 more local publications. A food blogger with a huge following visited and raved about her cinnamon rolls. Orders came from across Phoenix and surrounding cities. Sarah began planning for the future. When the 6 months ended and she could access her full inheritance, what would she do? First, she'd pay off any remaining medical debt for families in the hospital where she'd recovered. Anonymous donations that would change lives. Second, she'd expand Phoenix Flower & Flower into a full training facility for disabled entrepreneurs, offering not just jobs, but career pathways. Third, she'd establish a foundation in Uncle Roberto's name, focused on helping people rebuild after life-altering events. The money wasn't just hers. It was a responsibility. Uncle Roberto had trusted her to use it wisely, and she would honor that trust. 6 weeks remained. Sarah marked each day on her private calendar, counting down to freedom. Marcus became obsessed. Every waking moment was consumed with proving Sarah had more money than she claimed. He created spreadsheets tracking her business expenses, researched inheritance laws, and even consulted with a shady lawyer who promised to find dirt for a fee Marcus couldn't afford. Lisa had distanced herself from Marcus after their confrontation with Sarah backfired. She felt shame creeping in, real shame, not the performative kind. Watching Sarah thrive while taking the high road made Lisa realize how far she'd fallen. One night, Lisa called Sarah. Her voice was small, broken. Sarah, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need to say this. Not for forgiveness, I don't deserve that. But you need to know, I'm sorry. Truly sorry. What I did was unforgivable. You were my best friend, and I betrayed you in the worst possible way. Sarah listened silently. Lisa continued, Marcus is spiraling. He's convinced you're hiding millions. He's talking about hiring investigators. Go to the media. I wanted to warn you. Why are you telling me this? Sarah asked. Because despite everything, somewhere in my broken, selfish heart, I still care about you. And because I'm tired of being a bad person. Lisa's voice cracked. I'm moving back to California, getting therapy, trying to fix whatever's wrong with me. But I needed you to know about Marcus first. Thank you for the warning, Sarah said quietly. Then, surprising herself, she added, I hope you find what you're looking for, Lisa. I really do. After hanging up, Sarah felt lighter. Forgiveness didn't mean reconciliation. It meant releasing the poison. But Marcus was another story. True to Lisa's warning, he hired a private investigator, a bottom-tier one who worked for cash and asked no questions. The investigator, Jerry, spent 2 weeks following Sarah, photographing her movements, checking public records. He reported back to Marcus with a thick folder. She's clean, Jerry said, tossing the folder on Marcus's cluttered coffee table. Business is legitimate, funded by revenue and a small trust from a deceased relative. Everything checks out. How small was the trust? Marcus demanded. Jerry shrugged. Can't access those specific records without a warrant or her permission. But her spending patterns suggest moderate means, not wealth. She's living in the same apartment, driving a used accessible van, working long hours. If she had millions, she wouldn't be grinding like this. Marcus wasn't satisfied. There's something more. I know her. She's hiding something. You're obsessed, man, Jerry said, pocketing his cash. Let it go. She's your ex-wife. Move on. But Marcus couldn't move on. The thought of Sarah succeeding while he failed ate at him like acid. Meanwhile, Sarah was preparing for a television interview. A local morning show wanted to feature her inspirational story. Daniel helped her practice, though she was naturally eloquent when speaking from the heart. The interview aired on a Wednesday morning. Sarah spoke about adversity, resilience, and finding purpose after loss. The host asked about her ex-husband. He made his choice, Sarah said simply. I don't harbor anger. I've learned that some people aren't equipped for hard times. That's not a moral failing. It's just who they are. I wish him well. The grace in her response moved viewers. The segment went viral locally, then regionally. Phoenix Flower and Flower's website crashed from traffic. Sarah had to temporarily stop taking orders to catch up with demand. Daniel threw an impromptu celebration at the commercial kitchen. Employees, friends, and regular customers attended. It was the first time Sarah felt truly joyful since before the accident. Speech, someone called out. Sarah wheeled to the center of the room. A year ago, I thought my life was over. I couldn't walk. My marriage ended. My business closed. I had every reason to give up. She paused, looking around at the faces, people who'd believed in her. But I learned something crucial. Your circumstances don't define you. Your response to them does. Every person in this room has faced hardship. We're all rebuilding something. And together, we're creating something beautiful. The room erupted in applause. Daniel kissed her cheek, whispering, I'm so proud of you. 4 weeks remained until the inheritance fully vested. Sarah could almost taste freedom. The freedom to help on a massive scale, to transform lives, to honor Uncle Roberto's legacy properly. But that night, Marcus did something desperate. He showed up at a local news station with his evidence, the spreadsheets, the investigators' photos, his theories about Sarah's hidden wealth. This woman is defrauding the public, he told the assignment editor. She's claiming to be this inspirational figure while hiding millions. The people deserve to know. The editor, a seasoned journalist named Patricia, listened patiently. Then she asked the crucial question, do you have any actual proof of fraud? Bank records? Legal documents? Marcus faltered. Well, no, but... Then you have nothing but speculation and bitterness, Patricia said bluntly. We're not running a story to help you harass your ex-wife. If you have real evidence of wrongdoing, take it to the authorities. Otherwise, I suggest you move on with your life. Marcus left humiliated and furious. But Patricia, intrigued by his claims, did some digging herself, not to expose Sarah, but to verify her story was legitimate before future coverage. What Patricia discovered impressed her. Sarah's business was transparently run. The trust providing supplemental income was legally established. There were no red flags, no hidden accounts, no fraud. Just a woman building a business with family help, exactly as she claimed. Patricia called Sarah. I want to give you a heads up. Your ex-husband came here with some wild accusations. They're baseless, and we're not pursuing them. But you should know he's actively trying to damage your reputation. Sarah's stomach sank. What kind of accusations? That you're hiding wealth and defrauding the public. It's nonsense, but I thought you should be aware. After the call, Sarah sat in darkness, wrestling with a decision. She had the money to make Marcus's harassment go away. She could offer him a settlement by his silence. But that would validate his behavior, teach him that threats work. No, she wouldn't do it. Instead, she called her lawyer, a different one from Mr. Turner, a local attorney who specialized in harassment cases. I want a restraining order, Sarah said firmly, and I want to explore legal action for defamation if he continues. The lawyer was supportive. Document everything. Every message, every social media post, every attempted contact. We'll build a case. That night, Daniel stayed with Sarah. She felt safe in his presence, something she'd never fully felt with Marcus. Why is he doing this? She wondered aloud. Because you're winning, Daniel said simply. Because you survived without him and built something real. It destroys his narrative that you needed him. Sarah realized he was right. Marcus couldn't accept that she was better off without him. Her success was his failure made visible. 3.5 weeks remained. Sarah just had to hold on a little longer. Marcus's world was collapsing. He'd burned through what little savings he had on the private investigator. His landlord was threatening eviction. He'd applied to dozens of jobs, but his resume gaps and poor references made him virtually unemployable. Meanwhile, Sarah's face was everywhere. Local hero, inspirational entrepreneur, beloved community figure. The contrast was unbearable. One Friday night, after too many drinks at a cheap bar, Marcus made a catastrophic decision. He drove to Sarah's commercial kitchen, knowing she often worked late preparing weekend orders. Through the window, he could see her working alone, decorating cakes with the same focused concentration he remembered from their early days together. For a moment, nostalgia washed over him. Then bitterness replaced it. He tried the door. Unlocked. Sarah always kept it open until she left, trusting her safe neighborhood. "Sarah," he said, stepping inside. She spun her wheelchair around, alarm flashing across her face. "Marcus, what are you doing here? I needed to talk to you. Alone. Without your guard dog, Daniel. I have nothing to say to you." Sarah reached for her phone. Marcus moved quickly, snatching it from her hand. "Just listen. Please." Sarah's heart raced, but she kept her voice calm. "You're scaring me. This is breaking and entering. Leave now, and I won't call the police. I'm not trying to scare you." Marcus's voice cracked. "I just need to understand. How did you move on so easily? How are you thriving while my life is garbage?" "Marcus, my moving on has nothing to do with you. And I'm not thriving. I'm surviving and working hard every single day." "You're lying," he shouted, slamming his hand on the counter. "You have money. I know you do. That small inheritance story is bullshit. Just tell me the truth." Sarah realized the danger she was in. Marcus was unhinged, desperate. She needed to de-escalate. "Even if I had more money, what difference would it make to you?" she asked quietly. "We're divorced. You left me. You have no claim to my life anymore." "I have every claim." Marcus was pacing now. "I was your husband. I supported you." "You never supported me," Sarah interrupted, her own anger rising. "I supported you. For 2 years, I worked while you sat on the couch, making excuses. I paid the bills, made your meals, held our life together while you contributed nothing." The truth hung in the air like a blade. Marcus's face reddened. "That's not. I was looking for. You were waiting for a handout, just like you're doing now." The words were harsh, but Sarah was done protecting his ego. If this was their final confrontation, she'd speak her truth. Marcus stared at her, and for the first time, she saw something shift in his expression. Not acceptance. He wasn't capable of that. But recognition. He knew she was right. "I made mistakes," he said quietly. "But I loved you once. Doesn't that count for something?" "It counted for everything until you left when I needed you most." "That erased it all, Marcus." Before Marcus could respond, the door opened. Daniel walked in, immediately assessing the situation. Sarah's tense posture, Marcus holding her phone, the charged atmosphere. "Step away from her," Daniel said, his voice deadly calm. Marcus turned. "This doesn't concern you." "It concerns me when someone threatens the woman I love." Daniel pulled out his phone. "You have 10 seconds to leave before I call the police." Marcus looked between them, finally seeing defeat clearly. He dropped Sarah's phone on the counter and walked to the door. Pausing, he said without turning around, "I hope whatever you're hiding is worth it, Sarah, because when it comes out, and it will, everyone will see you're no better than me." He left. The door swung shut behind him. Sarah's hands shook as she retrieved her phone. Daniel knelt beside her wheelchair. "Did he hurt you?" "No, just scared me." Sarah's voice wobbled. "Daniel, I need to tell you something." She'd been carrying the secret for months, and it was becoming a burden. Daniel had proven his loyalty, his love. He deserved the truth. "What is it?" Sarah took a deep breath. "The inheritance from my uncle. It wasn't small. It was $100 million. Daniel's eyes widened. What? Uncle Roberto left me everything. But there was a condition. I had to keep it secret for 6 months to see who truly cared about me versus who wanted my money. The 6 months is almost up. Daniel sat back, processing. So this whole time, I've been living on a modest allowance while building the business. I wanted to prove I could do it myself, even without the money. And I needed to know that people in my life, including you, weren't there for what I had. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Sarah's heart pounded, terrified she'd just lost him too. Finally, he spoke. I wish you trusted me sooner, but I understand why you didn't. He took her hands. Sarah, I fell in love with a woman in a wheelchair running a bakery from her kitchen. Not an heiress. This doesn't change anything for me. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. You mean that? I mean it. He kissed her hands. Though I have to say, you're pretty badass for keeping that secret while Marcus was harassing you. Sarah laughed through her tears. 2 more weeks. Then everything changes. No, Daniel corrected. Then nothing changes. You'll just have more resources to help people. But you'll still be you. The woman who chose kindness over bitterness, who built something real, who turned tragedy into purpose. That night, after filing a police report about Marcus's intrusion, Sarah lay in bed thinking about Daniel's words. He was right. The money didn't define her. Her choices did. She'd already decided how to handle Marcus. Not with revenge, but with boundaries. The restraining order would be finalized, keeping him away legally. And when the inheritance became public, she'd use her platform to talk about resilience and choosing yourself. Not as a way to shame Marcus, but to inspire others. 2 weeks. Then the world would know. And Sarah was finally ready for it. The 6-month mark arrived on a Tuesday morning in early spring. Sarah woke up feeling surreal. Today, the secret she'd carried for half a year would finally end. Mr. Turner had scheduled a meeting for that afternoon to finalize everything and discuss next steps. But first, Sarah had something important to do. She'd arranged a staff meeting at Phoenix Flower & Flower. Her employees, Carmen, Miguel, Lisa, the teenager, and the 3 others she'd hired, gathered around the prep tables, curious about the unusual all-hands call. Daniel stood beside Sarah's wheelchair, his hand on her shoulder. Thank you all for coming, Sarah began, her voice steady despite her nerves. You've been more than employees. You've been my family during the hardest year of my life. And because you're family, you deserve to know the truth before the rest of the world does. Concerned faces looked back at her. 6 months ago, I received an inheritance from my uncle. I told everyone it was small, just enough to get by. That wasn't entirely true. Sarah took a breath. My uncle left me $100 million. Silence. Complete, stunned silence. Carmen spoke first. I'm sorry, did you say million? Yes, but there was a condition. I had to keep it secret for 6 months to protect myself from people who might take advantage. That time is up today. Miguel leaned against the counter. So this whole time, you were secretly rich, but you still worked 16-hour days and lived in that tiny apartment. Yes, because the money doesn't define me. This business, what we've built together, that's real. That matters. The money is just a tool I can now use to help more people. Lisa, the teenager, had tears in her eyes. You could have just paid people to do everything, but you chose to work alongside us. Because this isn't about what I can buy, Sarah explained. It's about who I want to be. And I want to be someone who works hard, helps others, and creates real value in the world. Daniel squeezed her shoulder proudly. Carmen walked over and hugged Sarah tightly. You're still the same person who gave me a job when I had nothing. That's all that matters. The other employees echoed similar sentiments. Sarah felt overwhelming relief. Her first test, telling the people who knew her best, had gone well. That afternoon, Sarah met with Mr. Turner at his office. He presented documents showing the full inheritance was now accessible. Millions of dollars, freed from legal restrictions. What's your first move? Mr. Turner asked. I want to pay off medical debt for every patient who was in the hospital with me during my recovery, Sarah said. Anonymous donations. They'll never know it was me. Mr. Turner smiled. Your uncle would approve. Then I'm expanding the business into a full training center for disabled entrepreneurs. And I'm establishing the Roberto Martinez Foundation to provide grants for people rebuilding after life-altering events. You've thought this through. I've had 6 months. Sarah smiled. I also want to set up trust funds for my employees' children, education funds, so they never have to worry about college. Mr. Turner took notes. Anything else? Sarah hesitated. There's someone I need to deal with. My ex-husband. He's been harassing me, trying to prove I have money. Now that it's going public, he'll come after me for sure. The divorce was finalized before the inheritance was received. Mr. Turner reminded her. He has absolutely no legal claim. If he continues harassing you, we can pursue legal action. Sarah nodded. She feared Marcus would somehow have a right to the money, but hearing the lawyer confirm otherwise brought relief. That evening, before the news broke publicly, Sarah called her mother in California. Mom, I need to tell you something about Uncle Roberto's inheritance. When she finished explaining, her mother was silent for a long moment. $100 million, she finally whispered. Mija, I can't even imagine. I know it's overwhelming, but I want you to know this doesn't change who I am. I'm still me. Her mother's voice was warm. I know, honey. You proved that by keeping it secret while building something real. Your father would be so proud. They talked about the future, about the foundation, about all the good Sarah could do. When they hung up, Sarah felt anchored. Her family understood. The next morning, the story broke. A press release from a law firm announced Sarah Martinez of Phoenix as the heir to a $100 million estate. Local news picked it up immediately. By noon, it was regional news. By evening, it had gone national. Sarah's phone exploded with messages, calls, requests. She turned it off and stayed home with Daniel, watching through the window as reporters gathered outside her apartment building. This is insane, she murmured. Welcome to being rich, Daniel said, though his tone was gentle, not mocking. I don't feel rich. I feel like me, but with more responsibility. Daniel kissed her temple. That's because you're one of the good ones. The doorbell rang constantly, reporters supposed friends from her past, people she'd never met claiming connections. Sarah didn't answer, but one knock was different, louder, angrier. Through the peephole, Sarah saw Marcus. I know you're in there, he shouted. You lied to everyone. You lied to me. Daniel called 911. There's someone violating a restraining order at our address. Within minutes, police arrived. Sarah watched from the window as officers escorted Marcus away, still shouting about injustice and betrayal. It's over, Daniel said quietly, but Sarah knew it wasn't quite over. Not yet. That evening, she drafted a statement to be released through Mr. Turner's office. I'm deeply grateful for my uncle's generosity and trust. The past 6 months taught me invaluable lessons about character, resilience, and what truly matters. I'll be using this inheritance to help others rebuild their lives after hardship, just as I've rebuilt mine. To those who supported me when I had nothing, thank you. To those who abandoned me, I forgive you. And to anyone facing their own struggles, know that your circumstances don't define you. Your response to them does. The statement went viral. People praised her grace, her wisdom beyond her years, her commitment to helping others. But in a cheap motel on the outskirts of Phoenix, Marcus read the statement on his cracked phone screen and felt his last shred of hope die. 3 months after the revelation, Sarah's life had transformed in ways she never imagined, but also stayed remarkably the same where it mattered most. Phoenix Flower and Flower moved into a massive facility with state-of-the-art, accessible equipment. But Sarah still came in early, still worked alongside her staff, still greeted regular customers by name. The difference was scale. She now employed 30 people, many of whom were disabled, formerly incarcerated, or rebuilding after hardship. The Roberto Martinez Foundation launched with a gala that raised an additional $3 million. Sarah, in an elegant dress with her wheelchair decorated with flowers, gave a speech that left no dry eyes in the room. My uncle taught me that wealth without purpose is just numbers on a page, she said. But wealth with purpose can transform communities, restore dignity, and give people second chances. That's what we're doing here. The foundation's first grants went to 50 families, helping them with medical debt, education costs, business startups, and housing. Sarah reviewed every application personally, remembering what it felt like to be desperate. Daniel proposed on the 6-month anniversary of their first official date. Not in some grand public gesture, but in Sarah's commercial kitchen after a long day of work, both covered in flour. "I fell in love with you when you had nothing but determination and a dream," he said, kneeling beside her wheelchair. "I love you more now that you have resources, because you haven't changed who you are. Marry me?" Sarah said yes before he even finished the question. Marcus's story took a darker turn. After being arrested for violating the restraining order, he spiraled further. He gave a bitter interview to a tabloid, calling Sarah cold and calculating, claiming she'd deliberately hidden her wealth to torture him. The interview backfired spectacularly. Public opinion sided firmly with Sarah. She didn't owe her ex-husband anything after he abandoned her. One viral tweet read, "Good for her for protecting herself." Marcus became a cautionary tale. The man who left his disabled wife and lost everything when her fortune was revealed. It was the story he'd feared, now made real by his own bitterness. Eventually, Lisa, the former best friend, reached out through Mr. Turner's office, requesting to meet Sarah. Not for money, but for closure. They met at a quiet cafe. Lisa looked different, humbler, wiser, genuinely changed by therapy and hard work on herself. "I don't expect forgiveness," Lisa began. "I just wanted you to know I'm genuinely happy for you. You deserved every good thing that's happened." Sarah studied her former friend. "Are you okay? Financially, I mean. I'm managing. I got a job, found a small apartment. I'm learning to live with myself and what I did." Lisa's eyes were clear. "I heard you're getting married. I'm glad you found someone who treats you right." They talked for an hour, not as friends, but as two people who'd once mattered to each other, finding closure. As Lisa stood to leave, Sarah said, "The foundation I started? We offer grants for people rebuilding their lives after making mistakes. If you ever need help, education, career training, whatever, apply. I'll recuse myself from the decision, but you'd get a fair shot." Lisa's eyes filled with tears. "Why would you do that?" "Because holding on to anger hurts me more than it hurts you. And because I believe people can change." They didn't hug. It wasn't that kind of reconciliation. But they parted with peace. Marcus, however, never found peace. His bitterness consumed him. He moved from state to state, burning bridges, blaming others for his failures. Sarah occasionally heard updates through mutual acquaintances, but she felt only sadness, not satisfaction. "I hope he finds happiness someday," she told Daniel once. "You're too good," Daniel replied. "No, I'm just free." Carrying resentment is exhausting. On their wedding day, a year after the inheritance was revealed, Sarah wore a custom dress and wheeled herself down the aisle. Her employees served as bridesmaids and groomsmen. The ceremony was held at the foundation's new community center, a building that would provide job training, counseling, and support services for hundreds of people. In her vows, Sarah said, "A year and a half ago, I lost everything. My health, my marriage, my business, my confidence. I thought my life was over. But I learned that endings can be beginnings. That losing what you thought you needed can help you find what you actually deserve." She looked at Daniel. "You saw me at my lowest and loved me anyway. Not because of what I had or what I might have, but because of who I am. That's the greatest gift anyone's ever given me." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. The reception featured cakes and pastries from Phoenix Flour and Flour, of course. Sarah danced in her wheelchair, Daniel spinning her gracefully across the floor. Former customers, employees, friends new and old. They all celebrated not just a marriage, but a journey of resilience and redemption. Miguel gave a toast. "Sarah gave me a second chance when nobody else would." She proved that people aren't defined by their worst moments, but by what they do next. To Sarah and Daniel, may your life together be full of second chances, new beginnings, and lots of excellent baked goods. Laughter and applause filled the room. As the evening wound down, Sarah and Daniel stood on the balcony overlooking Phoenix. The desert city sparkled under stars. "Do you ever think about how different life could have been?" Daniel asked. "Sometimes. If there'd been no accident, I might still be married to Marcus, running a small flower shop, never knowing I was capable of this. Sarah gestured to the foundation building. I wouldn't wish what happened to me on anyone, but I also wouldn't change where it led me. That's profound. That's survival, Sarah corrected. You either let trauma destroy you, or you let it transform you. Daniel kissed her. I'm glad you chose transformation. 6 months later, Sarah testified before the state legislature about accessibility and support for disabled entrepreneurs. Her foundation had helped over 300 families. Phoenix Flower & Flower had expanded to 3 locations. She'd published a memoir that became a bestseller. But her favorite moments were still the quiet ones. Working in the kitchen early morning, mentoring young entrepreneurs, having dinner with Daniel in their accessible dream home. One afternoon, Sarah received a letter. No return address. Inside was a single line. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you're happy. M. Sarah held the letter for a long time, then placed it in a drawer. It didn't erase the past, but it was something. Maybe Marcus was finally starting his own journey toward healing. She hoped so, not for her sake, but for his. That evening, Sarah updated her journal, something she'd started after the accident as therapy. Year and a half ago, lost ability to walk, lost husband, lost business, lost hope. Today, built new business, found real love, created foundation helping hundreds, published book, married best friend, living with purpose. Lesson learned. You don't need legs to stand tall. You don't need a partner who stays when it's easy. You need one who stays when it's hard. And you don't need people who love what you have. You need people who love who you are. Uncle Roberto's gift wasn't the money. It was the chance to discover my own strength. The inheritance I'm most grateful for isn't financial. It's the knowledge that I can survive anything, rebuild from nothing, and choose kindness even after betrayal. That's a legacy worth more than millions. Sarah closed the journal and wheeled to the window where Daniel was cooking dinner, singing off-key to a song on the radio. She smiled. This, right here, was everything. The end. Moral lesson. True wealth isn't measured in money, but in character, resilience, and the lives you touch. Those who abandon you during hardship reveal their true nature, while those who support you through darkness prove their worth. Betrayal and loss can either destroy you or refine you. The choice is always yours. And sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't what you receive, but who you become in the process of honoring it. Thank you so much for joining Sarah's incredible journey from rock bottom to triumph. If this story moved you, please subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories of resilience and hope. Hit that like button and share this video with anyone who needs to hear that their current struggles don't define their future. Drop a comment telling us what part of Sarah's story resonated most with you. Your engagement helps us create more content that matters. Remember, your story isn't over, and your best chapters might still be ahead. See you in the next story.